Hey guys, what's going on? It's David here from Scissor Explosion. I'm joined over here by Julian.
Hi guys.
And today we're going to be bringing y'all my version of Zoroark Greninja. This was a requested deck by subscriber Lightning King, and he let me know they wanted to see this deck. And I played a little bit of this deck last season, and I saw a pretty fair amount of success with it. It's pretty strong. Basically, you use the Greninjas to increase the damage you deal and help Zoroark hit those one-shot numbers. So I've been working hard on this deck for about a week or two now, and we got a lot of testing in on it this weekend, and I feel like it's a pretty solid deck. This is a really solid list. I'm really excited to share it with y'all. So let's get into it here in a minute. We are going to be starting to profile the Dragon Majesty decks. We haven't bought any Dragon Majesty yet, but we are planning on bringing you each one of the main GX Pokemon decks in there, and even some of the non-GX. I'd love to build the non-GX Charizard deck and see how that runs. One of our buddies, Michael, wants to build the Dragonite GX deck. Both Julie and I would like to build the Kingdra GX deck. I will build Ho-Oh and Reshiram, get that profiled for y'all. And then what's the last one? Salamence and White Korean GX.
Yes.
They go together, actually, because they use the same kind of energies. But we'll be getting some Dragon Majesty soon. I'll get some of those pack openings posted for y'all. And once we get all the Pokemon we need for those decks, we'll get those decks profiled for y'all. But without further ado, here is Zoroark GX, Greninja GX. So first off, we got to play 4 copies of Zorua. Zorua is just your stepping stone. It's got 60 HP, but it's got that ram attack if you ever need it for two colorless energies. You can always poke your opponent for 20 or 50 with a choice band if you have to. I do not recommend that, but I mean, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But there's 4 copies of Zorua. And next up, we play 4 copies of Zoroark GX. This is an amazing Pokemon. It's just... I remember last format we were saying this deck isn't consistent enough. Well, what should we do? Let's throw Zoroark in there. Because Zoroark just has that amazing consistency with his ability trade. Once during your turn, before your attack, you can discard a card from your hand and draw 2 cards. Zoroark is one of my favorite Pokemon from last format. I played Zoroark Lycanroc. I piloted that deck for most of the season last year. And it was just my favorite deck. And Zoroark is just so good. We have lost some things like with the rotation. We've lost Evo Soda. We've lost Puzzle Time. It has gone for good. So sad. But that card was broken. You know it. I know it. Come on now. That card was just too good. But even with those cards gone, Zoroark is still a very, very powerful Pokemon. And we have lost Bridget, but don't worry. In November, we are getting a new supporter called Professor Elm's Lecture. That does basically the same thing. Me and my friends have been talking. It's kind of a balanced Bridget. You can just search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon with 60 or less HP and add them to your hand. And that works great for Zoroark because all the Zoruas have 60 HP. So there we go. But for now, we do have other engines to get our Zoruas out as quickly as possible. Zoroark also has that Riotous Beating attack for 2 colorless energies. Single energy attachment as long as the DC. 20 damage for every Pokemon you have in play. So really, really powerful attack. Really powerful Pokemon altogether. And then for the Greninja part, we play 4 copies of Froakie. Right now we are playing the 70 HP Froakie because it's just a little bit harder to knock out. Once Professor Elm's Lecture comes out in November, I can do another profile of this deck, but we'll be using the 50 HP Froakies with the Frubble's ability, which says if they have a water energy attached, they have no retreat cost. So we'll have to use those in order to search them out with Elm's Lecture. So we may play maybe 2 of those and 2 of the 70s, or maybe just all 4 50s. But we'll just have to see how that goes. We'll get some testing in on that in November. 4 copies of Froakie. And next up, 4 copies of Frogadier. Frogadier has that Gale Shuriken ability. When you play it from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you can place 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So the way this deck works is you start getting your Froakies down, then start evolving your Greninjas. You probably want to go for your Zoroarks first, though. Get your Zoroarks down, start trading your life out, and then you start evolving your Froakies into Frogadiers and then into Greninjas and stacking those damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. And then start hitting some of those higher numbers. If you stack a Frogadier, you're hitting for let's see, Zoroark, if you have a full bench, you'll hit for 150 with a Choice Band, plus the 20 will be 170. That's enough to knock out Tapu Lele. You evolve 2 Frogadiers, then you're hitting for 190, enough to knock out things like Buzzwole and Rayquaza GX and any of those 190 Pokemon. Banette GX, well, Banette's weak to Dark, so you'll be able to get the one-shot on her anyway. But anyway, 4 copies of Frogadier, and then 3 copies of Greninja GX. Greninja GX has the Shuriken Flurry ability, which is the same as Frogadier's, except you stack 3 counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So 20 with the Frogadier, 30 with him. If you evolve a Frogadier and a Greninja in the same turn, you're hitting for 50 more damage than you would normally do. So that's 200 with Zoroark's Choice Band. And then you've got that Hazy Slash, because this card is a very good attacker too. Hazy Slash for 110, Water and DCE for the attack cost. You can shovel this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into the deck. So you can start pinging your opponent's Pokemon for some damage, hitting them for 2-shot damage. You'll hit 140 with the Choice Band. Plus, you can't forget all your Frogadier and Greninja abilities, but you'll be stacking damage counters on. And then once this Greninja gets in trouble, you just use Hazy Slash to shuffle it back into the deck, and have those lines there for later. And then you can start trading with Zoroark and getting those Greninjas back down. And then your GX attack for this deck is Shadowy Hunter GX. Water double colorless for the attack cost. Does 130 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Really strong. If you start hitting a Pokemon for a lot of damage and they're going to want to retreat it to get it out of the active spot, bring up Greninja, Shadowy Hunter GX, knock it out. Pretty strong combo. I haven't found any problems with 3 Greninjas. I think 4 might be a little excessive because we do play Rescue Stretchers in this deck, and I mean, I guess with 4 you could have that added consistency of having it in there having it in your hand when you need it. But like I said, usually with 3, I find that I have just enough Greninjas. So that is up to you. I'll leave that up to y'all on how you want to build your Greninja deck. And to finish off the Pokemon line, we play 2 copies of Tapu Lele for that Wonder Tag ability. To get us those supporters whenever we want. I think in November I will up this count to 3. But for now, 2 is sufficient. And then that Energy Drive, since we do play double colorless energy, it is a viable option for attack. Do 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. So 2 copies of Tapu Lele GX. And that's it for the Pokemon, guys. Next up, supporters. First off, we have Cynthia, of course. Shuffle your hand to your deck, draw 6. Gotta play that Cynthia. And then I run 3 copies of Guzma. I think 3 is fine. I do play Palpad in this deck, so I think 3 is fine. I don't usually have any problems getting to the Guzmas when I need them, so sometimes I end up even trading them away. But I do have Palpad, so I don't have to worry too much about trading them away. But these are just to target down this Pokemon you want to take down and maybe get something you have in the active that you don't want up there. So 3 copies of Guzma, 2 copies of Lily. This is an option for first turn. We have 2 options in this deck for first turn. For a first turn supporter, draw 2, you have 6. If it's your first turn, draw 2, you have 8. Excuse me. We either go for Lily or we go for our other card that we play first turn, and that is 1 copy of Apricorn Maker. I play the Apricorn Ninja in this deck because I feel like it's needed in this deck. I've seen some versions that play like a Pokemon Fan Club, or even they play the Brooklet Hill to get down the Froakies. And I don't see any problem with that, but just in my personal preference, I think I prefer the Apricorn Maker engine. You get to search your deck for any 2 item cards and with the word ball in the name of the card, and reveal them and add them to your hand. So you can play Apricorn Maker first turn for 2 Nest Balls, or even in the later game, if you end up going with Lily first turn, you could even draw Apricorn Maker in the later game and get something like 2 Timer Balls or 2 Ultra Balls or a Timer Ball and an Ultra Ball or whatever combination of ball item cards you would want. So 1 copy of Apricorn Maker in this deck. And a couple other one-ofs for supporters. I play 1 copy of Judge. I feel like Judge is really, really good in Zoroark because if you judge your opponent, you have Zoroark, so you'll be able to trade out of the 4 cards. So it's just really good to slow your opponent down. Oh, it just says each player shuffles their hand to their deck and draws 4 cards. It's this format's version of In for now. 1 copy of Malo to get those cards on top of the deck that we want. Maybe we have a Zoroark and only have 1 Zoroark on the field, and we got a couple of Zoruas. We could Malo for 2 Zoroarks, put them on top of the deck, then trade for those 2 Zoroarks, and then have 2 more additional trades. Or you could get some of your Greninja lines starting to evolve. Mallow for a Frogadier and a Greninja, evolve a Frogadier into a Greninja, evolve a Froakie into a Frogadier, and start hitting for some massive damage. So 1 copy of Mallow, and then 1 copy of Acerola. For that prize now, most of the Pokemon in this deck are going to be 2-shotted. There's not a whole lot of things that can 1-shot a Zoroark. Of course, we have the obvious fighting types like Buzzwole and Marshadow GX and all those, but some of the other ones usually hit for around 190, 150, 180, somewhere in there. Solgaleo, Solgaleo KOs anything, so that's not really relevant, Julian. But Solgaleo is coming back, but with all those aside, Acerola is a really good one-up in this deck. Greninja has 230 HP. That's very, very hard to one-shot unless you're a grass-type Pokemon. But if you don't want a Hazy Slash, maybe you don't have the energies to Hazy Slash, you can just Acerola it back into your hand and then restart evolving your Greninja line. So 1 copy of Acerola. And now we're going to move on to the item cards, guys. 4 copies of Ultra Ball, standard search for any Pokemon deck. Discard 2 cards from your hand, and if you do, search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and add it to your hand. Then we play 4 copies of Nest Ball. We do play Apricorn Maker in here, so we want the Zoroarks or the Zoruas down as soon as possible. Turn 1, I can usually get down. Sometimes I can get down a full bench if I play Apricorn Maker. But yeah, Nest Ball, even if I didn't play Apricorn Maker, I'd probably still at least play 3. But 4 is really good in this deck. If you don't need them, you can trade them away. So that's the beauty of Zoroark decks. You can play multiple copies of cards that you do not need, and just to ensure that you draw them in your first hand. And once you don't need them anymore, they are just trade fodder. So 4 copies of Nest Ball, and then 2 copies of Timer Ball. Flip 2 coins. For each head, search your deck for an evolution Pokemon, reveal it, and add it to your hand. Really good. Usually, this can be kind of a flimsy card sometimes, but I find usually you flip at least 1 head. So usually you can guarantee yourself 1 evolution, but sometimes you'll get double tails, and that sucks. But sometimes you'll get double heads, and you're like, this card is broken. Right. But yeah, Timer Ball can be a little flimsy sometimes, but we have lost Evo Soda, so we don't have a way to get out our Zoroarks really, really fast, besides things like Ultra Ball and Timer Ball. So 2 copies of Timer Ball. Next up, I played 3 copies of Super Scoop Up. This card is really good. It's the same basic concept as your Acerola, except in item card form and on a coin flip. Flip a coin of heads, put one of your Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your hand. So you could prize denial your opponent like something like a Greninja, or you could prize denial on a Zoroark, or you could Super Scoop Up a Greninja, then start evolving another Froakie you have on the bench. So let's say you have 2 Frogadiers on the bench and 1 Greninja in hand. You could evolve that Frogadier into a Greninja, hit for 30 damage with your ability, and then Super Scoop Up if you hit heads, scoop up that Greninja, then re-evolve the other Frogadier on the bench into a Greninja, place down the Froakie, and you're ready to go with Frogadiers for the next turn. So Super Scoop Up, it doesn't always work, but when it does work, it is a very powerful play. 3 copies of that. 2 copies of Choice Band. We don't really one-shot anything in this deck unless we use our Frogadiers and our Greninjas to hit those numbers. But when we need Choice Band, we need it. So we play 2 copies to ensure that better chance of drawing it. But I don't think any more than 2 is really necessary in this deck. You could probably play 3 if you wanted to. I've considered upping to 3 every now and then, but for now, it is at 2 for that extra damage on EXs and GXs. 2 copies of that. And then 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher. To get back those Pokemon, we do play a lot of Pokemon in this deck. Pokemon are, I think, the majority of this deck, besides the items. But sometimes we have to trade those Pokemon away. So sometimes we have to trade away a Frogadier we don't really want to trade, or a Greninja we don't really want to trade, or we need to get that Lele back from the discard pile to Guzma for game, or something like that. Rescue Stretcher is there to help us out. So 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher. And then for the last item card, 1 copy of Palpad. We do trade a lot in this deck, so we want to get back those supporters sometimes. We don't play a super high count of supporters, but sometimes we need that Cynthia, we need that Guzma, or that Apricorn Maker. We need to judge our opponent to disrupt them a little bit, or we need that Mallow back. Something like that. Palpad is there to get those back for you. So 1 copy of that. And then to end off the deck, guys, we got 4 copies of Basic Water Energy, and then 4 copies of Double Colorless Energy. no Zoroark deck should be without double colorless energy, in my opinion. It's just so good to hit 120 damage for one energy attachment with double colorless energy. And then your Greninja is beautiful because your Greninjas need water double colorless to attack as well. So 4 waters I think is sufficient. A 5th may be necessary. That's up to you. I've even seen some people play 3 water energies. But I feel like 4 is a comfortable number. I don't feel like it's too many or too less. But if we could play 8 double colorless energy, that would be awesome.
Yes, it would.
So especially since you got to be really careful with those double colorless energy this format. We don't have things like special charge to get them back or puzzle time. Nothing like that in order to get back our double colorless energy. So once your opponent uses Kartana GX, his slice off ability, or they use Enhanced Hammer, or something like a Drampa GX attacks into you, those are gone, and there's no way to get them back. So use your double colorless sparingly.
You gotta remember there's a new Prism Star that's coming out that takes away energies put in the Lost Zone too.
Which Prism Star is that?
Same on Vito a while back. For sure.
I'm not 100% sure which one that is. We'll have to look that up for y'all. But anyway, Zoroark Greninja is a really strong deck. Let's see here. Zoroark Greninja is really strong. It may not be the best version of Zoroark, in my opinion. I think it's really strong in my opinion. But some people may not regard it as the best because it is clunky with the stage 2 line. You got to play 4 and 4 and 3 is what I play. No rare candies because you want to get those abilities off with your Frogadiers. It is possible to rare candy into Greninja and still use his ability, but then you're missing out on the Frogadier's extra damage. So, I mean, I don't think it's worth it to play rare candy. If you wanted, you could probably play 1 or 2 copies. But these are really good partners for each other. There are some other good, better partners probably out there. I know Lycanroc is one of my favorite partners for Zoroark because it's just so scary to get a Rockruff on the bench, attach an energy, and then your opponent's like, ooh, should I kill a Zoroark or should I KO that Rockruff before it kills me? So it's just something we can try to build as well. It was one of my favorite decks last format, and I'll probably will get a version of Zoroark Lycanroc up for you guys if you'd like to see that. There's a lot of other Zoroark variants I would like to try to build. If there's any that you would like to see, let us know in the comments section below. If you haven't been here before, be sure and subscribe to our channel. Once we reach 100 subscribers, we will do another giveaway. We haven't figured out what that giveaway is going to be. We're still talking about that, but we will let you guys know whenever we do. So be sure and subscribe to the channel, like and comment down below. And this is David and Julian from Scissor Explosion. We will see you all next time.